Hi, everyone. I'm here with Brian Fargo. He is are you the CEO or founder? What do you like?
Founder.
Okay.
Founder, yeah.
He's the founder of Robot Cash, ICO, which will be coming in April. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep.
So,
Well, when we launch or when the ICO is we're in the middle of the ICO now, but we'll launch in approximately 6 months from now.
okay. So, Brian, do you want to just introduce yourself and just kind of run through your background?
Yeah, so I say my name is Brian Fargo, and I've been in the video game business for over 35 years. Most people know me from Interplay. It was my first company I started when I was very young, and some of the big games that people know me for from that is Fallout and Baldur's Gate and Battle Chess and Descent and a whole number of different Star Trek hits. We did a whole bunch of titles through the 80s and through the 90s. And then I started this company in exile in 2002. So I've been at this for a while, and we did the Wasteland franchise. We're doing a Bard's Tale 4. We did a game called Torment, and I've also done a lot of crowdfunding through Kickstarter and a group called Fig. And I've crowdfunded over $10 million from our fans to help us make these role-playing games for which we're well known for.
So, what was your? Just a side note. What was your favorite title coming out of Interplay?
The ones that we worked on? Well, my number one favorite Interplay / shiny title was called Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a well-known product. It was kind of one of the first MOBAs in a way. And I used to just have, the hundreds and thousands of hours playing Sacrifice. It's just intense. So that Sacrifice, even though it was a division of Interplay, I would count that. Battle Chess meant a lot to me. It was all my baby, and it was a fun product. It got me in front of George Lucas talking about where the chess idea came from. Just a lot of positive memories from that, and probably Wasteland also for what it represented. It was as a role-playing game. Of course, it was the precursor to Fallout, and it was very much sort of the moral ambiguity that people had to react and deal with in a game that had been done much before that. So it was very groundbreaking in its way, and the writing and situations was super interesting.
So how did you get from In Exile to where you are today with Robot Cash?
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends that are in the blockchain space, and I've always liked to try to connect the dots with technology as best I could. And I've known Brock Pierce for 10 years, and I knew those guys. And Brock had said, Brian, people want to do things with me in the video game side, but I don't really know them or trust them, but I trust you come up with something. And so I started reading a lot of white papers, and I certainly had a sense of what the blockchain was. But it wasn't until I started reading a lot of white papers that I had a better understanding and started to see some common themes. And so the common themes were the reduction for the need of a middleman in all different businesses. And it was also the security of it, the cryptography of something to make sure that something could not exist in two places at once, right? If I could make a copy of a Bitcoin and sell it, it would be over tomorrow. So I started thinking, how could I apply those two basic principles to my business? And one was our biggest middleman is digital distribution companies like Steam or GOG, and they take a 30-point margin. And I felt that we could do that for far less, so that we could offer pay publishers 95% of the proceeds. Well, publishers and small developers too, pay them 95 versus 70. But the question became, how do I get consumers onto the site? And so that's when I thought, well, now that I have extra margin to use, I could keep the publishers whole, and I could allow people to resell their game when they were done playing it. And to me, that's the really big idea. I think this whole concept of reselling a digital asset that you bought is like, we're going to let the genie out of the bottle, and I don't think it goes back. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to apply to films and books and everything else. Once we start getting used to it, I think it's just going to keep going on. So I think that's really the big concept, and probably what has people the most excited.
Right, because I remember even when did Steam come along? It was 10 years ago now?
I think it was around 2005, I think, roughly.
Yeah. Okay. So the digital distribution began around that point, but before then, there was a host of reseller game stores where you could just pick up, used CDs for a bunch of different games.
Right. Well, GameStop's a good example. They have a big used game market, and a lot of people buy physical goods from GameStop because there's liquidity. Mm-hmm. They can take it into the store and get some of their money.
Right, and after Steam came along, there was no, at least for the PC market, there was not really a need for digital reselling again. I mean, you can't really do it. I don't know how you would pass the game license on to someone else, but here with the blockchain, we actually have a method to be able to, provide a singular key, which can't be traded out of someone's account unless they actually want to. That's completely secure there. Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the blockchain. I mean, and it's also something, because remember, for me to be able to allow this to happen, you have to get the rights from the publishers. Mm-hmm. They have to agree to this. We can't just decide to sell it. It is a license. So they had to be, one, it had to financially make sense. Well, I had the extra margin to give them. And then even more importantly, it had to be secure. And I think that everybody feels the comfort of the blockchain as a security mechanism, which allowed them to agree to allow me to facilitate this.
Right. So how did you, I'm guessing you have, 30-some years experience with the game industry now?
35, so I don't know. I hate to date myself, but yeah, I've been around since the beginning.
As you must know every publisher.
I do.
Out there.
I do.
Yeah. So when Robot Cash is released, you'll have a token which will be released here in the next month or so to the platform once it comes out. That seems like from our previous conversations, you already have a lot of publishers who are kind of knocking on your door, wanting to be part of the ecosystem.
We do. I mean, we'll have hundreds of titles at launch. I mean, we've been chasing some of the bigger publishers because we wanted some big titles at launch. Mm-hmm. There's a whole indie community that's tremendously large, and for them to get 95% of the revenue, you figure even a small group that say they're gained at $100,000 in revenue that year, that extra $25,000 could be make it or break it for them to give them another shot. So, but yeah, so no, I mean, I've had the yes rate has been very high. I mean, imagine, hey, you're going to get 95%. It's a pretty compelling argument to them. So yeah, people have been signing up nicely. We have been contacted from people around the world, and we've even been contacted by some large publishers that I didn't think would participate because they had their own vertical integration, but they're still interested in what we're doing, that I've even kind of got their attention. I've even got the free to play publishers talking to me. Like, one of the things they talk about, they said, well, Brian, we don't sell our product. It's all in-game items. It's free to play. How's this good for us? I said, well, I'll tell you why. I'm going to airdrop millions of dollars of tokens out there. People are going to be mining on our site and getting a bunch of tokens. And then, in addition, when they resell their game, they can get cash, or probably they'll take tokens. Why wouldn't you want all of that economy moving onto your site in order to buy in-game purchases of your product? And they go, okay. So it's even compelling even for somebody who's free to play.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't know the free to play guys could come, but that's actually really cool. Yeah.
No, I mean, I said, you take the British pound, why wouldn't you take our iron token, right? I mean, if I'm going to have millions of dollars in my system, there's no reason for you not to support it. We make our same 5%. So that's I think the beauty of this is that it's great for premium games, and it also works for free to play games.
Right. Do you think there'll be a big in-game economy used for the token?
Well, here's how I try to explain to people. Like, so if you're going to write a game for Steam or GOG or one of the other digital sites, they have this API functionality that developers can lean on. So if you want to do save games in the cloud, they've got code for that. Don't write it yourself. They already have it there, right? Or if you want to do some multiplayer functionality, use their code, right? And that's what gets you into that system. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have a host of API functionality for which our token is at the core. So, for example, let's say you want to allow wagering in your game. Well, here's some code. Our token is at the function of it, and you can then incorporate it into your product. So we're gonna get developers to save them time giving them code for which because they're not gonna, no reason for them to write the code and launch their own coin when I can provide all that and make it easy for them. And we only take 5%, so it's not egregious. And so it gets people using our token. So, and on top of it all, the site itself is open source. So developers are going to be, it's going to be a modder's paradise to help build on top of the protocol for what our store is. The only thing that isn't open source for us is just the thing that keeps the publisher's rights protected, right? We got to make sure that they're protected and paid. Short of that, we're going to open it up. So I suspect or know that people were going to build API functionality, things I haven't even dreamed of that they're going to do, and anything that's blockchain specific, our token will be at the core.
That's really cool that it'll be open source. Because, one of the things like the Steam is so proprietary, they control it top to bottom.
Yep.
I haven't been on the game publishing side with Steam. You can probably tell me about that, but it seemed that they would have strict controls on their API use and what you can and cannot do, and what you can add and cannot add.
Well, I think, look, we've seen time and time again that it's very hard to compete with a decentralized system where everybody's weighing in and making it better than one service could. I mean, Wikipedia, of course, is the classic example of that, right? They just made it better than any one company could ever do. I think the same thing's going to happen here. And then also what happens is that the more time people spend making something, right, which is this collectively will be Robot Cash, the more likely that they'll spend time evangelizing it and using it, right? So we like the fact that our users will be building it because they'll become more a part of the process. So in every way, we see that as a positive thing.
So what other, how do people earn tokens, and how are they being incentivized to acquire them?
Yeah. So for example, first, when you go to buy a game on the site, we need to make it very friction-free, right? Which is, here's a game, use a credit card, buy it. We don't want to make people jump through hoops. Under the hood, we'll be converting to iron and doing that sort of thing, right? But how they will get tokens are two ways. One is when they resell a game, we give them back a minimum of 25% of the proceeds in cash. Or if you take iron, we're going to give you a little bit more, okay? Have a greater incentive to take the iron versus the cash. And generally speaking, when people sell a game and get 25%, they're probably going to want to wait till they have enough to buy a new game. So we think that people are going to be more likely to sit on the iron anyway than cash it out, but we don't know. But in any case, we're going to incentivize them. So that's one part. And the other part is that very few people own crypto and very few people mine it. And, there's a friction to setting up the wallet and downloading and understanding it. We already have a running system. So it's very easy for us to just click a box and say, hey, when I'm not playing games, I leave my computer on at night, let it mine. And we tell people, yeah, maybe you'll earn 2 free games per year just by leaving your computer on, which could leave us, we could have 200,000 people mining at night. And I say mining, it could be anything that we have them doing, right? It's whatever, we'll have this computational power. What makes sense to do it? Maybe it's solving equations for NASA. Maybe somebody's launching a new coin and they need validation. We can have all sorts of things that we think make the most sense. But the idea is that we incentivize them by giving them iron to leave their machines on at night, which they're already doing anyway. And we're already a hub because they're already buying and selling games there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's one thing that really drew me to the project because I'm a really big proponent of decentralization, and to have you essentially have one of the bigger decentralized mining pools in the world, just from gamers. And you have to think that like gamers usually have high performance GPUs in their systems, and they may or may not be interested in mining, but if you give them a little check mark that they can tick and they perform actions and make money from it, it's a great way to onboard people.
Yeah, it's very gamified. Yeah, exactly. You just click a box and our little robot starts swinging his pickaxe, and you'll see in real time as the money goes by, 100th of a penny, 10th of a penny, whatever it is, but you'll see it. And then in addition, we'll do things like if you get your friends to join, you can get part of their mining. So maybe you'll see like money coming over, like Sam just mined some money. You just got a piece of it, right? So it becomes kind of fun to get other people to join up Robot Cash so you can participate in their mining.
So one thing that I read in the white paper was that if you don't use your tokens that you earn as a reward from selling your games within 45 days or 60 days, that they'll be automatically burned.
Gosh, I haven't had that conversation in months now, whether that makes sense anymore, because we incentivize them. We want them to keep them. But I know there was a talk at one point about, I'm sorry, that was the airdrop. It wasn't for earning them from mining. You're reminding me now. It was for, we want people to get onto the system and use the tokens. We want them to start going through the system. So it was only for the airdrop ones, I believe was the conversation.
Okay. Yeah. It makes a bit more sense.
Not for the mining. That's what it was. Yeah. Or the resale. We can't burn those. Yeah.
So who are the other people on the team? We talked about it before, but you guys have a pretty impressive team that is lined up to take this forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of saw last year a bit of the Wild West, in terms of, money raising and the ICO process with a lot of companies that didn't have a lot of experience. But I think we're moving into a bit of a different phase. And so for me, and certainly I've been in the business a long time and I have all my contacts, but just, to me, it was to find a great group of managers that also had their own relationships and knew the business cold. So our CEO was the president of Atari. Years ago, Lee Jacobson, our senior vice president, Philippe, he used to be an executive vice president at Warner Brothers in charge of their digital division. Our CTO has been in the business a long, long time. So, real industry veterans that have the know-how, the relationships, and the kind of the contractual knowledge in order to pull this all together. And in addition, the advisory board is very strong too. I mean, one of the people is, Anna Sweet. When Steam had 4 employees, she was one of the 4. So imagine how great her knowledge is as one of our advisors to help us to say, these are the things we would have done different, or these are how we pulled off these different things. So we really do have a very strong group of people.
That's cool. So what was, other than Atari, what was Lee doing before he came to Robot Cash?
Who, the CEO?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was at Atari. And then he was at Midway before that, Midway Games, and I don't remember. And then he was at an analytics company for a while also. So he's a very well-liked, well-known guy in the industry. And again, and Philippe's I don't remember Philippe's whole resume. I remember working with him at Warner Brothers, and he's again just a well-known, well-respected guy in the industry.
How long have you known Lee?
I've known Lee for over a decade for sure. Probably close to 20 years. Some of these people I used to negotiate against. So I know what I'm dealing with. They're very bright. But yeah, no, we have Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari. He's on our advisory board. Michael Maloney is from the Galaxy side. Very strong architect, helped us to really design the system. Just all the way around, I've been very fortunate. I always hire really smart people, and things tend to work out.
So where exactly is the company based? Are you guys doing a U.S. based ICO, or is this like Gibraltar offshore?
Yeah, so we think that well over 50% of our revenues are going to come from outside of America. So we didn't want to be set up in the U.S. to be taking in those revenues. And so Philippe, who's our, the person who's our business development, manager, he already had a development office in the Canary Islands just by coincidence. So we were looking at Puerto Rico. We were looking at different places. What would make sense if we're not going to be in the U.S. sort of taking these revenues? And he said, look, guys, I'm actually going to think about moving to the Canary Islands, and I already have a development house there. So it was just serendipitous that it worked out. So we're set up there. There will be an office here in California, sort of act as a marketing office where Lee and Mark will be.
Yeah. So the Canaries, you guys are the first that I've heard to actually be domiciled there.
Yeah.
Like, have they been? How have their ICO regulations been?
Well, so Philippe has been working out of the Canaries for years and years. So he's been in communications with the lawyers and the politicians there as for what we're up to. I don't know how many specifics about the issues, but there hasn't been any that have been raised so far. So I can't really comment specifically other than there doesn't seem to. I mean, they kind of, I think they welcome the economy.
Right. Now you guys are raising 25 million, and
hard cap of 30.
30.
So
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Raising 30, and you guys are halfway there, right? Or just about halfway there.
Yep. We have commitments for that. Now we're collecting the monies now. So I mean, we had the crash 2 weeks ago, right when we kind of got out, and nobody wanted to talk that week. So we really only got going about a week ago, as far as I'm concerned. So now we're just calling people up and collecting funds.
So how's it been so far, from your perspective in running an ICO?
I've done crowdfunding before. This one is, I mean, everyone's so different. With the Kickstarter crowdfunding, you're dealing with trying to get 30, 40, 50,000 people in, right? For this, it's only a matter of getting dozens or maybe 50 to 100 tops, right, of people. So it's much more one-on-one with me. People want to talk to me. They want to go through it. Whereas on a typical crowdfunding campaign where we're blasting out to 40 or 50,000 people, cut checks $30 at a time, it's a different sort of mentality. What's been nice is that, I mean, I've been in different pitching my entire life, one shape or another, whether it was for selling a product or raising money, whatever it might be. And the response to this idea has been very strong. I mean, it seems like 75% want to say yes to this concept. Like they understand exactly what it is. They like the idea. They can see it's a big idea. And so, I joke to my friends. I said, I feel like, the beautiful woman in the room, because, we go in and people are usually kind of nodding their heads. So the percentage of people that want to be involved is pretty high. So it's been enjoyable. I think, what's also interesting about the process is that you speak to like brilliant people that all have a very narrow expertise, right? One might just be in blockchain, one might just be in token economics, right? And to be able to have a coherent conversation with people who are all experts in these different fields has been very stimulating.
Yeah. What do you see as the kind of sticking points for you guys going ahead?
In which the way do you mean sticking point? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, when you guys are going up against Steam, which is
right,
and GOG as well too, which established, and how do you see yourself competing with them, or is it leveraging on the publishers and indie game developers to bring them to your platform to have these kind of
right,
other just games who want to come to you because of the revenue structure, and then also what they can do with the token?
No, actually, ultimately, look, and I talked to Steam. I said, look, if we got 10% market share, that would be worth about $500 million a year, just at 10% market share. And so I would never claim that we're going to beat out Steam. But the question is, there should be a number, it's like we have Voodoo and we have Hulu. I mean, there are other channels. I think ultimately we're not going to win because I have the exact same games at a better margin structure. Where we're going to have a winning strategy is that ecosystem that is being built by us and by the community of things and features and products that are blockchain specific, that are only found on our system. That I think ultimately will allow us to create something where people want to come to us rather than go there, or maybe say go in addition to Steam. And that I think the resale component is going to be an interesting one. I will say, because even though the margin split is on a resale, it's technically a relicense, is 70% for the publisher, 25% for the consumer, 5% to us. It's a dial for the publishers to play with. If they want to give more than 25%, And my prediction is that they're going to find out that they can move that dial to 50%, and they're not going to see new game sales drop at all, because you're going to have this evangelized group of people that are going to be pushing, hey, buy it from me. Come on, you've been wanting to play the game, trying to get their 50% commission. And there's a lot of other, people do these 80% off sales, and then when it's over, guess what? The publisher's sales, they go right back to where they were before. Or there's other things like Humble Bundle, where they give the game away for free, hundreds of thousands of copies of your game. People pay whatever they want, and then they go back and they buy more on Steam. So if those things do not destroy your long tail catalog, then I don't believe that giving consumers a 50% commission is going to hurt your long tail catalog. And that's where things really get interesting, when people start getting even really big commissions like that. 25 is great also, but 50% takes it to a new level. So I think you'll start to see people experiment with that, and then we just go to a whole other level.
Yeah, that's really cool. Brian, I want to thank you for sitting down with me. It's been really, really fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing where Robot Cash goes in the next few weeks for the ICO, and then when the platform comes out in 6 months.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.